hi, I'm Amelie Danjou, and tying in with the traveling musicians who weren't respected, but the skalds were, you gotta get an interesting little connection there, which was just to start off, what's the difference between a troubadour or a trouvere or a jongleur? I won't do skalds and bards because those are different cultures, and I'm kind of sticking with France. All right. So they're sort of the same, right?
Yeah.
So, but let's just for fun do some word etymology. So troubadour is the English version of the Provençal or Occitan word troubadour. They didn't have the U's in there. And the Occitan verb troubar means to find. So you're not calling yourself a composer, you're calling yourself a finder of the poem. Just kind of, when you learn another language, you learn a different viewpoint of a way of looking at stuff. So that's just, I just thought it was very interesting. They're calling themselves finders, really. I found this poem. Think of that. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. I mean, they don't say that it means finder. A troubadour, we know what a troubadour is, or they do poems and stuff, but that's just interesting. Troubadours, by the way, is a female troubadour. They had a second troubadour, Troubadours, male and female endings, so that's fun. Now, Provençal or Occitan is in what we would call today southern France, and it was a separate Romance language in what we call northern France, was where they were speaking medieval French, which turned into French. Occitan is, I think, what it's more currently called, but in the older research books it's more referred to as Provençal. So I put them both in there. Its closest living relative is probably Catalan, which, if you look at the map, you've got France here and there's Spain right there. There's Pyrenees, but Catalan is here and Provence is here. So they're really close together, and they were very connected historically. So, so that yet another Romance. So if we go up for the medieval French, Paris way, instead of troubadour, it's trouvé. But again, trouvere is more of a fine thing again, so it's you're a finder. But then there's jongleur, and I've got a bunch of different spellings here. We have more handouts for those of you who are just trickling in. Yeah, so we have a bunch of different spellings for jongleur or jonglard in Occitan. And Latin would be joculator. Of course, in English it's minstrel. And minstrel makes me think of minute as minstrel. English being a Germanic language, and you go off to Minnesänger. But Minnesänger, or Meister singer, a little bit later, which means master singer. But Minnesänger, Minne was love, so loves. Love singer, yeah. All right, so, but anyway, just to throw some of those out, I think. What is the difference between the troubadour and the jongleur? It's class rank. The troubadour is noble. He's nobility. And the jongleur, he's low class. And like with the Norse one, the jongleur is probably traveling castle to castle. He's not only playing instruments and singing songs, he's juggling, I don't know about flaming phalluses, but yeah, that was pretty wild. But yeah, so it's really a class thing. So there were probably some really excellent jongleur performers, but because they weren't of a higher class, we don't know their names, and they weren't preserved for posterity. Whereas the nobility, they've got reading and writing skills. They can write their poems down, and those get to survive. So that makes them better, right? Okay. It's just, there it is. I think that, the minstrels, the lower jongleurs, they weren't credited with compositional skills. That doesn't mean you weren't writing stuff, it just means they didn't get credit. I don't know if I have that in here. Oh, I don't. Okay, yeah, there's a, that's in a different class. There's a troubadour, Arnaud Daniel. Not a fan of Arnaud Daniel, you gotta dislike someone. But Arnaud Daniel is the guy who invented the sestina, by the way, and which to me is a poetic form that just says, look how smart and clever I am because I am such a clever guy, yeah. That's, I think, is what a sestina is all about. And I don't like Arnaud Daniel's sestinas, maybe it's just the words he picked or something. But there's a story about Arnaud Daniel and a jongleur. And they were at some king's castle. And someone, I don't know whose idea it was, I think maybe it was the king's, he said, let's have a contest. You know, which of you can write the better song, right? And whoever it is, I'm going to give you, you know, a horse and clothes and all this good stuff. And so, so the two go off, and the jongleur, he comes up with this great tune right away. He's got this great song. And I don't pick me up. Thing. He's got writer's block. Nothing's coming. So it's the night before they're going to perform. And the jongleur is practicing. Because he's got to perform tomorrow, right? So he's repeating it over and over, right? Arnaud Daniel spies on him, listens to him practicing, and steals the song. And in the morning, next day, Arnaud Daniel, being the noble, gets to go first. And he performs the other guy's song, because he couldn't come up with anything. And then the other guy's just like, you know, what is he going to do? That was what he was going to do. And so he's just like, he's so speechless. So finally, you know, he's like, that's my, you know. So anyway, it comes out that the king's like, what's going on? And so he explains, that was my song. And I was like, yeah, I stole it from him. Aha, we all had a big laugh, and they both got presents. But yeah. So if you need a documentation for learning songs by oral tradition, just there you go. There's a story about it. But yeah, so I think but anyway, yeah, I don't like sestinas and I don't like kings. So there. I just put in a little map. The blank area is the map. Oh, I told you where I stole it from. That's nice. It's from Meg Bogan's The Women Troubadours, which is a charming little paperback, which you can still find for a reasonable price, and has like all the extant poems of women troubadours, or Troubadours. They're really fun. So the blank area is the troubadour area, and then they've got the other ones labeled: Trouveres, Minnesänger, Italian troubadours, Catalan troubadours, Galician Portuguese.
Your map is different. Oh, no, anyway.
No.
It's just
What
the
about the
angle.
blank area? I'm sorry. I didn't
The
see
blank
your-
area is in fact the troubadour section. For some reason,
Oh.
she left that one blank and labeled everything else.
Like with southern France sort of thing?
Yeah, right. Like south of the Loire
Okay.
and north of the
I
Pyrenees.
see.
That's the troubadour area. And really, it's more delineated by language than anything else. I've made a list here, turn the page, of some different genres that the troubadours wrote. I guess I'll just use the word troubadours because it applies to the others as well. But of course, we all know about the love poetry, right? That's what we kind of think of when you get an image of what's a troubadour. You see a guy strumming his lute at the bottom of the window, singing to the lady up above, which I guess they did sometimes, but also singing in court for the king and his nobility. And would you like to hear that? I don't think you got one.
Oh, you already gave me one.
Oh, I did. Oh, okay.
You have more though?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you not get one?
Yeah, I gave her. I gave her.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. We have a ton.
Yes. Yes, I
We
made
just learned
extras.
them.
They're in here. I've got more, so,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so. So let's look at some of the other, they wrote other kinds of poems, and also the love themes, you can break them into different categories too. So, a Cervantes is a political poem. Bertrand de Born wrote a lot of these, and most of his poems are what I call a Cervantes. It's so you're writing it for a specific reason, you know, and some of our bards here in the SCA do that. you'll find them writing poems that I would put in this category, where you're trying to get a certain message across, or something like that. Bertrand de Born was usually trying to get Henry II's sons to fight their dad. He liked war. He made money off of war. He thought war was great. Most of his poetry, you can't do it because it's so specific to a certain event that we don't know what he's talking about, you know, and he's referring to specific people with, you know, code stuff and, yeah, so, but he's got one in particular that's been translated by a number of people because it's really awesome, just about how great war is and how he loves it. And it's sort of like a zoom camera coming in. I've got it in here later, we'll get there. You get to see it. Okay.
He was a profiteer? Why was
He was a minor nobility, and when they went to war, if he beat the other, you know, if you beat the other knight,
You get to loot their property?
you get their stuff. You get their horse, you get their armor, so he's making money off of
Or
it.
even if you don't, you get to raid the local church and steal
Thank you very
the
much. Okay, thank you.
community services.
Yeah, so he thought war was great, and he liked it a lot, and we'll do that poem later, because I love it. But also in the not a love poem category, the jeu parti or the tenso. It's two people. It's like a debate poem, and they're usually written by two different people. And they'll write, one guy will write one verse, and then the other person will write another verse back. And some of these were between a troubadour and a troubadours, where they were writing. There's a couple of famous ones that way, or there's different ones. There's so a lot of times those are love related, but they're like arguing. Like there's like, I've got a problem. I've got this. There's these two guys, and you know the one says this and the other says that. Which one should I go with? Kind of things, or you know. There's you can imagine a kind of a debate.
Jeu parti, there's like a little translation. It means that they're kind of calling it a game.
Love game. Yeah, yeah. The pastoral. You wouldn't think this was a whole subgenre by itself. The pastoral is basically a knight trying to seduce a shepherdess, and she's like, "Really? You gotta?" And they all start. You know, the other day I was riding along. And I saw this girl out in the field, and oh, she was so lovely. And then he goes into he's like, hey baby, you know, hey baby. And then there's, you know, either she's like, go away. And one guy wrote 6 of them, and the theory is that it's him and the same woman through life. So when they started young, and by the last one, she's like the owner of this inn. He's like, oh, I remember you. And so he actually wrote a whole bunch of them. Yeah. But and in that one, I think she turned him down every time. But there are other ones where it kind of ends in rape, and sometimes the girl's like, oh, thanks, see you soon. I'm like, yeah, right. But you know, these were guys writing them, so this is what they were hoping for. Anyway, the Alba is a dawn song, and probably the best example I can give you of that is it flips the sexes usually, but it's a Tristan and Isolde story, right? The thing that's flipped is the watchman, because Isolde has her handmaiden be the watch person, whereas usually in these songs it's the guy has his buddy watching for him. And the idea is, of course, she's married to someone else, and he's off hunting or something. He's gone, usually hunting. And so her lover comes and visits her, and then we've got Romeo and Juliet too. I can't forget Romeo and Juliet. You know, it's the nightingale. No, it's the lark. You gotta go. So dawn is coming. You gotta get your tail out of here before my husband gets home. Hurry up and skedaddle. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of those. There is one Minnesanger wrote an anti-alba. It was an alba about how great it is to be married. Because you don't have to get up and run away at dawn. Oh, that's great. So, but the tradition with those is each verse ends with the same one line, a refrain of, and dawn comes soon, and soon it will be dawn. So, there's some really awesome ones like that. Of course, just canso or chanson, that just means song. And those are just, the love songs that don't fit one of these other categories do tend to just be, it's just a song, so it's a song. A plaint is a lament, piangere from Italian, weep,
Plaint.
plaint.
There's a complaint.
Right, plaint, so there's your word, yeah, so it's a lament. There's a couple that are specifically from the women's point of view that are kind of fun. There's the Malmarie, a bad husband song. That's not a troubadour category, but it is a Trouvere category. And it's like, why does my husband beat me? Well, some of them are sad. I have one in here that I think is funny. Yeah, so-
Sung by men, though.
Not necessarily, no, I don't think so. No, and they also had a category they call chanson de toile, or song of work, which is also, those are Trouvere, the northern French one, and supposedly these were women's work songs, so while you're sitting around spinning
So like sea shanties.
or weaving, you've got a song. And some of them do have kind of a deal where one person's singing it and then maybe everybody joins in on the refrain. Or maybe one person just singing it to entertain the rest while they're doing their work. In the Gallo-Portuguese school, they have like three main categories of poetry. There's the Cantiga de Amor, which is the song of love. So that's the basic love song, the man complaining, baby, baby, why do you keep saying no? You know, baby, baby, I'm the best, you know. I mean, they really do. They translate, when you translate them out, they sound like songs a lot of times. But they had the Cantiga de Amigo also, which is, really kind of translates song of my boyfriend. And they are all written by men, but they are from the woman's point of view. Usually a young unmarried girl. Sometimes it's the mother. Sometimes there's a daughter-mother conversation going on. And those run the gamut of mother-daughter conversations. So there's mother, the king asked for my tresses, my hair, what should I do? Mother says, daughter, give them to the king. Which I guess means she's supposed to sleep with him. I don't know if they actually get married or not. It's not clear. But then there's they've got me locked up and I'm going to get out of here. They can't keep me from my boyfriend kind of ones. So, yeah, and it's crazy. So those are fun.
Who would have been the audience for songs like
Yeah.
that? I mean, groups of women singing them to themselves?
Oh, who would have been the audience? Well, these were written by men, so
Okay.
I don't know, maybe he was singing in chord and falsetto and imagined this is what the young girl would say. I'm not sure about that. It's a good question.
Okay. Wink and nod, humorous songs, I guess, for a male audience? Or?
Oh, speaking of humorous songs for a male audience.
That,
Our
maybe we need
very-
not go into much detail. Like,
Well, our first troubadour was Eleanor of Aquitaine's grandfather, William Duke of Aquitaine, or William Count of Poitou. And he's the first guy whose poems we have extant. And a lot of his are quite raunchy. I have a separate class, it's just his poems, adults only. Which you all are, so that would be fine. But no, really, some of his are, I mean, one of his is, he's like, I have 2 horses in my stable, you know, and they're such lovely fillies, you know. Oh, this one is from the mountains, and she's just, and he describes her, and then he's like, this other one is from the valley, and you just can't get a better ride. But, you know, and then in case it wasn't clear from all those verses, at the end, he names the women. He's like that. So then helped me decide, should I take Lady Agnes or Lady whatever the other one's name was? I mean, there's like, you know, he actually, I mean, I could tell that was the intention. He was making it pretty obvious and clear, you know, and, you know, he's like, you know, like one that's like, she belongs to, this horse, she belongs to someone else, but I've made an arrangement with her owner for every time he rides her, I ride her 100. You know? Yeah, and that's the cleaner one of the poems.
All right.
Oh, yeah, they're fun. So I go read some of his, yeah.
I think
They're
you
really
did a
fun.
class on him last year, right?
I have done a class on him. I did at Pennsylvania, perhaps. I don't have a clock. All right, let's just look at some of the actual poems then. There's more, of course, more styles and genres. A lot of troubadours were really into inventing a style. Sometimes they invent a style just for this one poem, and no one else ever uses it again. And so it's like a one-time interesting poetic form. Now, I think maybe Arnell Daniel meant to do that with the Sestina, but other people picked it up and said, oh, this is great, and so they did it too. But yeah, some of them are really tough. One guy says you need nearly requires advanced mathematics to schematize the forms, but they're not all that hard. I mean, it could just be A, B, B, A, or A, B, A, B, but they're not always that easy. This first one is not too bad, pretty easy poetic form. And of course, the other thing is we have way more extant poems than we have tunes. You know, I think we have maybe, you know, something like 1,400 poems and 400 melodies. You know, yeah. So I think we have more melodies for the Trouveres than we do the Troubadours. All the Troubadour songs all fit into one book called The Extant Troubadour Melodies by Henrik van der Berg. You want to have all the melodies, got all the melodies. Now, of course, he doesn't have the words. You haven't done the other verses and translations, but you got all the tunes. And of course, our other problem with the melodies is rhythm and all that. But let's look at a few poems. This first one is, as you can see, it says from the Women Troubadours up at the top. So this is one of the ones by Beatrice de Dia, or the Countess of Dia, Countess of D. She has 4 extant poems, and she's the only Troubadours for whom we have an extant melody. Ooh, yeah, it's very exciting. It's a great song. That's not the one I put in, though. I just put in one of these other poems of hers because it's really nice. Okay, the English doesn't rhyme. It's got some assonance, but it's, I think it's lovely. You know what, just for fun, I'm going to read the second verse in the original so you can hear how it sounds as you can read the English on the other side. Ben volia mon cavalier tener un ser en mots bras nu, quel s'entengra per erelut, sol calar fui efeses coselie, car plus men sui abellida, no fets flores de blanche fleur, eu lautri mon cour et mon mot, mon sen, mon suirs et ma vida. Okay. That was ABBA, ACDCB, right? Yeah. So that's a fairly easy, simple rhyme scheme. But yeah, she's just saying, well, you can read the English, right? Yeah. I've been betrayed because I wouldn't sleep with him. Day and night, my mind won't rest. How once I could just once caress him in my bare arms, he'd be in ecstasy. I just let him in his head against my breast. You handsome friend, when shall I have you in my power if I would only lie beside you for an hour? Now this I'd give almost anything to have you in my husband's place. But only under the condition that you swear to do my bidding. So I like that she wants to make sure that he's going to do exactly what she wants, otherwise, no go.
Well, that's part of earlier, right?
Well, this whole,
This is earlier than that.
this is 12th century,
Okay.
but
But he would naturally swear to do the lady's bidding? Is that part of it?
well, that's, it's part of the whole troubadour thing is putting the ladies up a little bit on it, you know, and it was also, it's part of the court milieu, you know, there's your lord, he's the lord of, you know, you guys, you owe allegiance to him, you have to suck up to him, and there's his lady. And I don't know if she actually is prettier and smarter and nicer than all the other ladies, but if you don't curry favor with her, are you going to get what you want? So if you're writing poems saying how great she is, she may talk her husband into being nicer to you, and maybe it makes them look good, you know, oh, everybody looks, doesn't necessarily mean they're actually in love with her, but is part of the court, you know, you're living with the same little group of people all the time, right? So, yeah, so does that affect, and I think that affects the fact that they're very inventive with these poetic line forms, because you're trying to show off, like, yeah, I could be, can't hear this poem, you know. Speaking of hear this, if you'll turn the page, here's one with a tune. This is This is by Markabru, who's one of the earlier troubadours. And I love this one because of it's going along, it's got 6 syllables per line, da 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 da, da 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 da, you know, it's going along, and then there's the shorty one. Listen, escutas. It says listen, and every verse has that as the 4th line. All the other lines are nice and long, and then he just has escutas. And I think that's so cool. So let's see what it sounds like. Direbus en estutanza, dac est vers la commensanza, limod van de versemblanza, escutas, qui ves proesa balanza, semblas ai fai de malvas. The rhyme scheme is fun too. It's A-A-A-B-A-B, with the last line of each one rhyming with that escutats word, which is just a really cool sound. It keeps ending with that. I just like the rhyme scheme and the sound of this. We do have the issue of what should the rhythm be. Earlier scholars got into fights about this. Seriously, there were supposedly a duel with 2 early musicologists over the rhythmic modes. You know, because and
But wait, so whoever wins the physical fight is right?
I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous. I think they use pistols or something. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I mean, there's this whole idea of like there's these 6 rhythmic modes, and so these songs must be in one of those.
Were the Troubadours using those? I mean, I thought they were really academic thing that was happening in Paris.
Well, that was the earlier theory then, and if you get something before the 1980s, it will have transcribed the song rhythmically. Be aware, they made up the rhythm. You know, they made it up, and you can choose to use it or not, whatever you want. And I'm not going to tell you that there's a right or wrong rhythm for any of these songs. And all you can do is use your best judgment, and your judgment is just as good as anyone's. Really, it is, because after you read everything, all you can do at the end is make something up. I mean, it's fine for the scholar to say, we don't know what the rhythm is, so we're just putting these dots down because we can't commit to a rhythm because we don't know what it is. And post-80s, starting in the 80s, there's some overlap there. There's still some stuff coming out with rhythms and some stuff without. But anything that's coming out now mostly doesn't have a rhythm. I've seen some stuff more recently where they put it both without rhythm and with a conjectural rhythm. Because you can't say it's for sure the rhythm, but if you're performing it, you need to do something with it. So that is a problem of performing this stuff. What you do, I think, is you look at the words. I mean, if the words are what's most important, what works with these words? You know, if it's a sad song and it's lament, should you be doing it with a martial 4/4 beat? You know, if it's a happy tune, can it sound dancey and bounce? Yeah, probably should. Oh, good. I have. Well, you can read this whole poem later and see what it sounds like. But I want to go on to some more. Here's Bertrand de Born. I said he liked war. This one to me feels like you get a lovely panoramic shot of beautiful springtime. It starts like so many other love poems at this time. You know, I love the gay time of spring, and birds and trees and flowers. And okay, you see a knight on his horse and you think, oh, great, and then there'll be a lady. No. I love in the gay time of spring, when the flowers and trees are blooming. I love to hear the birds sing. They chatter to each other their tuning. Their songs fill the wood. I love to see a meadow arrayed with pavilions intense display. It is all to the good. The knights and their horses parade in a great and proud cavalcade. Ben plai lutar, gai temps de pasco, que bei Feuer se flores venir. Et plai me ken auch labador, das azels que fan fritintir, die chant per los gages. Et plai me can vei per los brats, tendas et pavillons per mars. Et ai grana le braccia, can vei per campagnas regats, cavaliers et cavals armados. I love it too when the Lord is the first soldier to invade. Full armor and his sword, his true courage is displayed, his valor he's attired. For when into battle injected, his men's strength must be infected, he must be able to inspire. For no man can be respected without blows given and deflected. Massas e bronze, elms de color, escuts troncare descarni, verem all'entrada ristor, e mein vassale sen sirir domanara narracha, cabals dels morts e dels nasrans. Com en listuts entrats, chacus oms de paracha, non pens mas de esclar caps e brats, que mais val morts que vius sobrats. Maces and swords, bright bassinets, shields broken and smashed we'll see at the beginning of the fray, and riderless horses running free, left from the wounded dead. As the men move forward, let every noble's hand be powered with hacking and killing instead of false honor soured. Better to be dead than to be thought a coward. This guy really likes it. It's an awesome poem. I will, in interest of time, go on to another. But I love that poem. Yeah, and at the end, barons, pawn your castles and cities and towns before you stop making war. So he just thinks it's the greatest thing ever. Next, we have a more typical canso, a typical love song. This is by Rimbaud de Vaqueros. I don't know why I put this song Rimbaud's in instead of my favorite song by Rimbaud. I don't actually know this one. I think it's because it fit for copying purposes. It was fit on the page most easier.
Could have read Mazzetti.
Yeah, and I don't know the tune. And I don't, oh, well, it's kind of interesting. I have made war on love, as the noble vassal makes war on an evil suzerain, who wrongfully takes his land, so he'll make war. And then when he learns war is profitless, to regain his rights, he asks for pardon. And I have such longing to regain joy that I beg love's pardon for its own sin and change my pride to humility. So he's trying to do a little war words thing there, but then he just goes, yeah, okay, well, he's continuing the war metaphor a little longer. But, yeah, so yeah. She grants me her friendship and loving agreement, my fine lady, and retains me in her service. And promises me so much that I believe the proverb that says, who fights well agrees well. For in singing I have fought with love so long that I have reached a better agreement with my lady. Wow, this poem makes no sense to me. That's really bizarre. Okay. All right, well, I'll skip ahead a few verses. Verse 5, if I am not noble to match your noble birth, yeah, a lot of them were right into some of the higher, right? Nor worthy to equal your great worth, or isn't that true? I do all in my power, and I ask your pity, and serve and praise you and love you above all else. And refrain from evil, and apply myself to all good, on account of your love. So it's just, oh, and he names her in the end. Oh, and she answers back, too. Fair knight, my love for you wars with me. And I pray that pity and true humility may vanquish you as you have conquered me. Oh, Lady Beatrice. Oh, it's the same lady who wrote the other poem, too. Okay, I guess you really liked her. Lady Beatrice, the best ladies are envious of your majesty, which adorn you and the Lord of Montferrat. Possibly a lady of Penrith living at the... Supposedly, Lord of Montferrat's sister, in another book said that. Okay. Oh, good. I told you which book I stole it from. Yeah, the ones with the spiral stuff there is from the medieval lyric. This is the 1980s version as opposed to the now on CD-ROM version. Okay. Well, I've got a tune. You can work it out on your own if you want to. All right. Got to do this one. It's because it's probably the best-known troubadour song of all. This is by Bernard de Ventadorn. And I think he was in the court of Eleanor a lot with him. And this is a rhyming English translation here, which is nice to have. Also. They're hard to find, and unless you've got someone like Kasha around who can do beautiful English rhyming translation. But this one's pretty good. And we have like a dozen different versions of this tune, which is why I didn't give you one, because which one do I give you? But the dozen different versions also gives us a clue for how to perform them. Because this is an oral transmission, right? Songs are passed down by ear. So when you look at the different versions, you see what's the same and where is it different. And a lot of it is the same. So that's the part that everyone remembers. And then the part that's different, those may be written out different people's decorations of the song. So you can look at all those different versions and say, you know, I like this little turn right here, that's really cute, but I like this one over in this version better. So you can make your own version when you have, so that's one of the approaches if you have more than one version that survived. That's a really nice thing. And studying some of those can give you an idea. Then if you have a tune that really only has one version of the tune and you want to do something more than just those notes on the page, we should be adding more notes than what's written there. What's written there is really kind of an outline, and we should be doing more. But it's hard to know precisely what. Yeah.
I remember in high school and college, we would go through sonnets especially, and, you know, scan the poems for active and passive accents, and then divide that up into feet.
Okay.
Could we do the same thing with some of these poems, and from that construe the rhythm? Remember you were talking about?
Yes, you could. That's a really good idea. The only difference being that it is French instead of English.
And it's
I don't
Old
know.
French, and
and
we don't
Old
know
French.
if
Well,
they-
I don't know how the rhythm, I think rhythm is different from English's
Of
rhythm.
course, but I mean, as
But
you
yes,
said,
I think that's a really good idea, that if you use the words to figure out what the rhythm should be,
yeah,
definitely.
because we're looking at Esmen, Guerra,
Yeah, okay,
Arbor.
let's say that one. Esaya men, ooh, that's a hard word. Geriat,
Amor.
Amor.
So, I mean, we can
Col
see where
France
some of them
Vassal.
are going.
Gere ad mal Senor. Quel pol sa terra tor per quel guerrilla. E con conois quel guerra pro noel te. Yeah. I don't know enough about poetry to actually do the analysis. I'm afraid I can't do that, but if you know how to do that, that would be a really
Yeah.
great thing to
I
do.
mean, that is,
Yeah.
that I'm just grabbing out of thin air.
No, I think that's a good idea.
But
I
some
just,
of the other ones, you know, it's a little
I
easier to
haven't taught how to do
read.
that, yeah.
No, it's pretty much like an up and down, up and down.
Yeah, so all we
Yeah.
need to know is where to put the accents. We divide it into feet, divide one
Sure.
foot per note perhaps,
Well, and if you look here,
because you've got,
I think another thing along the same lines is a lot of times there's just one note per syllable.
Mhm.
And so that could be kind of a declamatory, Gregorian chanty kind of thing, or not. Maybe if there's a strong week, then the strong ones should be longer and the weak ones should be shorter. But sometimes there's several notes on one syllable.
Mhm.
And my idea is that that note should last, those notes, that one syllable should last
All
probably
those notes.
as long as the other syllables lasted, which means those notes are shorter.
Mhm.
So those are eighth notes or 16th notes or triplets.
Mhm.
They're shorter, I think.
Mhm.
So if I were doing, Aisamen. Oh, okay, I
So
mispronounced it.
those-
Yeah, that's
we
only
have one note.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 syllables. And, yeah. Aisamen, Nigerian, amor. Yeah, I wouldn't give a longer time because it had more notes. I would make the notes shorter. Cold Francis Jerry, Amal Senor. But I'm just making them all equal, and it could be more interesting than that.
So called Fran, Vassal, Guerra,
could.
you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and again, I'd go with what the words, what makes more sense with that poem. I think some poems work better with the rhythm,
Yeah.
and some work better with less rhythm, that more freely declaimed.
Does it really end on a B natural? That's kind of weird.
Ooh. Well, now there's a question, is usually last note is do? I am gonna guess that last note, that do is G,
Yeah, that's what I would have guessed.
because
It's-
over half the other lines end with G, and it starts on G. And what I think that is, it's leading up to the next verse. And the question is, when you get to the end, do you stop on G, or do you go on and sing all three notes? You might want to stop on G when you get to the very end, and not so that you're ending on do.
Either that or have a clue.
That was a neat thing to notice, yeah. That's why I never say 100% of songs end on do, because sometimes you get something like this, and that's really cool. How does that last line sound then? That's weird. Okay. Well, that's clearly a D. G, G is down. I know what those last two
I
notes
think
are doing.
on lines 5 and 8 are just really creative,
Yeah.
also with that ascending scale that
They-
skips the tonic.
Skips the,
It's so
yeah.
unexpected.
Yeah, that is weird, isn't it? They're almost identical except that the turns at the end.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
because I was gonna say, you know,
That's
like in
wild.
some songs, the last line is repeated, you know, for emphasis, so then we sing line 8, but then we go back to line 5 to finish off the verse,
Okay.
since that ends on G.
Yeah.
Also note that the last two verses don't have 8 lines in them, so it may not be intended to end the entire song on that phrase.
Well, that's a good point.
Well,
I've always wondered about those. Lots of Troubadour poems have those just like
oh, the
two or
last
three little
couple,
tags.
right, a lot of them
What-
do
what
this.
lines do you sing them to?
Analyze the poetic structure, it's usually the last several lines of that poem. So
Okay.
I would re-sing the end. Yeah, they do that, and, because usually, yeah, I would repeat the last 3 lines of the poem, the song for both of those, both 7 and 8, because they're shorter and that's what they match. So I would redo 6, 7, 8, and 6, 7, 8 again. Yeah. See, this is what, then you get into it, you have to ask yourself questions and then you have to figure out, what am I gonna do with it? And I just think it's really fun and interesting, but it intimidates some people because there's just those pitches, and it doesn't say what to do with them, but that leaves you free to be creative and do whatever you want with them. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's sing a verse or two for Arbor's famous song. When I behold the Lord, when I leap for joy against the sun's bright ray, so when he falls, forgets to fly, heart struck with sweetness of the day. Alas, such envy burns in me, of those I see rejoicing so. I marvel that my heart can be unmelted in desires hard grown. Con pena laudete mover de joy, sus alas contra el rey, que sublime la isación ser, por la dulzura coliva y ay, tan gran envía mi at the end, it's got one of those half ones again, so I just sing the last three or four lines. And it works really nice, because then you can tell it's the end, because you're not doing the whole verse just at the end. Tristas que no existe, que me vaya just no sai, never will sai can't say, no good, thinking, no more fun. Sorry, conflating a couple verses there, sorry about that. Okay. That is a really beautiful tune. You can find lots of versions of it. Some of them have rhythm, and you may or may not like what's there. And like I said, with the different extant versions, you can pick different ornamentations to do. You could do different ones on each verse. You could say, well, on this verse, I want to do this with that word, but it's a different word in this verse, so I'm going to do something different, which I think is very legitimate. How much time do we have here? Oh, no! All right, well, I won't read the next one, but I will tell you just quickly about it. You've got to read it on your own. The Monk of Montauban. This is a monk who liked to party. He liked to eat, and he liked the ladies, and his poems show that. And this is one where it's a tensor. So he's having a debate with God. And it's about ladies who paint themselves. So you need proof that people wear makeup. There you go. But so it's like, yeah, so he says, another time I was at a meeting in heaven by chance, and the statues were complaining of ladies who paint themselves. So he thought the statues were saying that only they should be painted, and women shouldn't be painted too. And so they go back and forth, verse by verse. He and God have the argument. And
Statues?
the statues in churches.
The saints and
The
the
saint-
virgins.
yeah, virgin, yeah.
and-
I love the fact that you said I was in heaven.
Well, by chance,
Yes,
I have to
that's
drop
right.
in. Yeah.
That's a little bit arrogant. Don't you?
Yeah.
Presumptuous, perhaps?
Go home and read this one. It is too
Well,
funny.
probably Dominican. Franciscan wouldn't claim that.
I don't know. You want to talk about humor. I think this one's hysterical. So you've got to read that. That's really funny. And at the end, they do come to an agreement. Oh, yeah, you get to the half verses down at the end there. Monk, this painting makes him endure many blows down below. So now we know who's putting the makeup on. No, I don't know. And then he's like, you're right, and I never get any of it. He says, and then he's like, okay, God, you're right, and then he's like, something about pissing destroys their paint, so I'll make it.
Sells well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might, I'm not reading all of it out loud. You can read that at home, it's loads of fun, but don't let the kids get their hands on it, okay?
Right.
And then it's like, well, I'll make them God says I'll make them catch a sickness that they'll do nothing but piss, and pissing destroys the paint, so that'll take care of that. And he's like, okay, Lord, but spare Lady Lisa, because she's always got and then there's a Cervantes. This only has a few verses here, but this is a roast. He's ripping apart the other troubadours. And so he's dissing one per verse. I'm going to sing about these guys, what is this like? So this one guy, he wore one set of clothes for 30 years, his singing is debased, and this other guy, he used to do good songs, but then he got married, and I haven't heard any good songs from him since, Oh, good, I know Daniel, he's never sang anything except crazy words no one understands. And since he did X, which is probably some clever reference here, with obviously something that's an in-joke that they all know and you don't get it. He's like, it sounds a bit worthless, And it goes on for 20 verses, and there's one for each guy, so that's really fun. Geoffrey Loudel was a very gentleman, Prince of Blois, and he fell in love with the Countess of Tripoli without seeing her because of good he'd retold from her from the pilgrims returning there. And so then he took the cross on account of this great love he had for her, and he went on pilgrimage. And he became sick at sea, nigh unto death, and they carried him onto the shore. And she had heard of this great boat that he had for her, so she came down to see him at the inn. And when she came in, he recovered his hearing and his sense of smell. And he praised God for having allowed him to live until he could see the compass, and then he died in her arms. And this is the song he wrote about his far-off life.
Oh, man.
This is BS, period BS, that somebody made up to go with the song, because they needed a good intro for the song. It's brilliant. I love it. Yeah. Oh, and she took vows after he was buried. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. And this is a great song. And here, Liddy, I gave you 3 extant versions plus a Minnesänger song that's basically the same tune. So, again, this has no rhythm, so you're going to have to pick something. But it's, yeah. And you might have heard the Walter von der Vogelweide version, and I've given you words for both, the French and the German. Completely different songs, just using the same tune. A lot of times I've heard the German one done in very martial rhythm, though. And I don't think it makes sense if you read over the words, but a lot of times, because I don't know whether it's just because people think all German songs should be that way, but it's Nun arrest lebe mir da 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 da. And you're like, wow, okay. But then you're like, they're talking about going on pilgrimage, you know, I finally seen the great land, and you know, and it's actually kind of religious. You
Yes,
know?
this really
So-
like big
So
spiritual
I don't
experience
think
for him.
that's the right rhythm for that song personally, but
Did you know there's something? There's a version, or they yoinked this tune for a song in the Carmina Burana
no.
about. It's like really sacrilegious about getting drunk at church or something.
Oh wow! Oh cool! But I mean, you could do it. You could do it like in a lilting 6/8. Or you just got to pick something that works for you for this song. I don't do it in a rhythm that I have notated, but I probably could, because I think I pretty much do it the same way every time. But it's like one of the versions, doesn't it? Yeah, sometimes when he says the word long, yes, over here long, he repeats the note. So I figured that means you're really supposed to hold that one out double length, because he put 2 of them there, right? So long, you know, hold that note longer, because that was pretty clear. But other than that, there's not a lot to go with rhythmically on what you should do with it. But it's beautiful tune, and we're running out of time, so I won't sing. Sorry. I threw in one of the Malmarie songs, Why Does My Husband Beat Me? I borrowed Mark Abreu's tune, gave it some rhythm from Marceau. No, because there was an extant Marceau version of this song, except I didn't like Marceau's tune for it. I thought it could sing, so I used Mark Abreu's instead, and made a nice flirtatious Pourquoi ne pas me marier like Saint-Paul? I don't know why my husband beats me. I've only been with my boyfriend all alone. Yeah. Okay, but I...
Again written by a man?
Probably, yeah. Oh, I don't, oh, okay, I didn't put my tune in here. I have that in a different handout, sorry.
I'll make sure he's called a cuckold.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that. Now I know just what to do. My revenge will make him blue. To my boyfriend I'll be true. And naked, pourquoi ne pas me marier? Like such a poor little girl. I think it's in jest, you know, that's the attitude I've taken towards it, but
Probably
there's a-
again sang falsetto.
it could have been,
Mm.
yeah, don't
We have-
know.
Maybe even cross-dressing too.
I don't know, maybe.
I mean, there's a
Throw a
whole-
dress on and sing it, sure.
That would have been part of medieval humor for sure.
Oh, right, sure, yeah.
What about homoerotic images? Do you see that in the ballad?
I haven't run across it yet, no. Sample, maybe, but no, I haven't run across that in these. But there's an awful lot of poems and I haven't read them all.
Well, I mean, I grew up watching Flip Wilson on television, and I've never figured that out. I've
And
never.
Jack Benny, no, not Jack Benny,
Flip
Benny,
Wilson.
Benny Good, Benny Hill. Sorry.
Benny Hill.
Benny Hill.
I don't. Why is it popular? I don't know. But
Because
it's funny.
I guess.
Yeah.
Quiet line.
But I don't know.
This
So
one,
the
if
tradition of
you're a bard, this is a good one because it's just 2 verses, but Al Kaufman didn't give us both verses. Oh, speaking of which, if you're looking for sources, I do have an annotated bibliography here in the back of sources I consider good. But Quant Joy Hiver Retornaire is from, I think this one, not this one, but he's got 2 volumes. It's about $40–45, but you get like 100 tunes in here. He's given them rhythm because you need to perform it somehow. He's freely admitted, you know, this is my version because somebody's got to make a version and the musicologists may not like it, but hey, these are like a medieval thick book. They're really nice. And they're available online. I have them in the bibliography.
Oh, you have it in here?
Yeah, oh yeah. I may not have put volume 2 in there, but in volume 2 also.
If you find volume 1, you'll find volume 2.
Yeah, well, you might not want to spend that much money to get both of them, so. He's got a bunch of different stuff from all over. I think this rhythm is great for this song. It works just fine. It's charming. Yeah. When I see winter returning, I like to find a good lodging. If I could find a gracious host who'd foot the bill, not charge me the most, would serve good pork, beef venison, mallard duck venison, pheasant venison, plump little hens and capons too, and good cheeses both old and new. The second verse goes on about his wife, you know, and if his wife too could be really nice to me when he's gone, ha ha ha, you know. So once his tummy is taken care of, then he can do the other things. Yeah, he's too old. Very cute. And getting to the end of the Troubadours, Machaut wrote lots of polyphonic stuff, but he also wrote kind of in the Troubadour, Trouveres style too. And this is just a great song. And this rhythm, and by Machaut, I think the rhythms we've got, the notation is clear enough that we can say, yes, this is the rhythm for this song. But the other stuff we can't. So you may have heard you say down in the video before. It's a great song. Je sais dans mes jolis Dieu n'est pas ami, que ma tête est finie, c'est at the end, I wanted to toss in a little bit of Spanish. So I've got one. Oh no, I'm sorry. There's one more Trouvere time period, but more devotional, because most of the anthologies only give us the secular songs, secular-minded songs, but in the same books there were songs of a more devotional nature. They're not church songs, they're just of a more devotional nature, and some of them are really beautiful. The book this is from, she hasn't written in this notation that looks like the original. She has it with no rhythm, and then she's done conjectural rhythm, and I love her conjectural rhythms. They're really great. She and I think alike, I guess, because I'm like, that's the rhythm I was going to do. Yay! But the imagery in this poem is just kind of amazes me. Rose which neither snow nor ice can destroy. Little fountain of sweetness within the salt sea. Light in darkness, joy in sadness, dew amid fire. Wow, huh? It's merry. They're marrying, but it's really gorgeous, and it's charming tune too. But people tend not to do them because they weren't in the anthology. So how are you going to find it? But she's put out this book, and that's what it is. This last one here is one of the 6 tunes for 400 poems. And they're all by the same guy. This rhythm I said is mine, but I think I actually stole it off of a recording. So, that's just, it's a south of the Pyrenees, but it's still the same tradition. So, and there's my bibliography. And I'm kind of gone over time, so is there any more questions? Don't know that I addressed the how to perform it quite enough, but it's a lot to pack into an hour, and, you know, these are really cool, and there's a lot of cool stuff out here. Yeah, the bibliography, besides these that I showed you, which I said volume 1, but we get volume 2 too, a bunch of songs I didn't put in here, Cantigas de Santa Maria. We have a little over 400 extant tunes.
Those are
And-
considered troubadour songs?
Well, they're devotional. It's the
Right.
same time period. I would put them in with this. I really would. They're definitely more clear on what the rhythm is. There is a edition that's only in libraries and couldn't get hold of in Lucavia. Kidney is really well known, but this one is more published more recently. That I put volumes 1 and 2 here, but he has come out with 3 and 4 since I made the handout, and he's done his own rhythmic versions. A lot of them match the old versions, but some of them don't. I think they're fun because sometimes the rhythm isn't 3/4 or 4/4, or, you know, some of them actually are a little more interesting than that. I mean, I read some article one time in Spanish where it said, in Galician folk music, 5 rhythm is normalismo. And it's like, 5 is normalismo? Well, how do I know which tunes in the cantigas to change back into 5? I can't tell. It's really hard. So he's done it, and a couple of them are in 5, and they're really fun. But anyway, that's a good source for music. It's not a good source for words if you wanted to sing, because he just has the first verse, but there are other books out there. So I've got music editions, text-only editions, and discography, and some websites. That may not be up to date. I don't know. I haven't gone to recheck all of those. I'm sure Greg Blount's stuff is still there. I hope the others are still there. Websites change sometimes, so I'm sorry if those aren't up to date. But, anything else? Oh, ding, ding, ding. Does that mean we're done?
I have no idea what that means.
Sounds like
Probably
dinner.
might be dinner.
It's actually 10 after. But, thank you